Today we have a special opportunity to talk to some folks that I'm sure many of you are very familiar with. The Kendrick Brothers, Stephen and Alex, and Kirk Cameron. Gentlemen, thanks for taking some time to talk to our Plugged In Show listeners today.
Absolutely. Our privilege. We're big fans of Plugged In, so keep rolling.
I feel like it's always an event when a new Kendrick Brothers movie is on the horizon. And that's exactly where we're at with the new film LIFEMARK coming to theaters on September 9th. It's a Fathom Events release, and at the moment it's scheduled to run in theaters for 7 nights, but if it's successful, guys, you said there's the opportunity for it to perhaps go longer than that. Is that correct?
That's exactly right. You know, we're excited about what Fathom is doing. They're doing something they've never done before in the manner that they're releasing LIFEMARK. They're very excited about it. So if people start responding and supporting this pro-life, pro-adoption film, they're going to extend it, which means more audiences can see it. So we hope that happens.
It's pro-awesome, pro-inspirational, pro-Kirk.
It is. It's one of these movies that I think is so unique in its content in that it's not about a political issue. Some people may try to position and frame it that way, like, oh, this is a pro-life movie and pro-choice people are going to be upset. No, it's not that. You know what this is? This is just a true story that I think offers the answer to the pro-life, pro-choice debate. And that is it's pro-love. And as Stephen often says, if we can look at this issue through the lens of love, it brings clarity and courage to everyone, and nobody gets murdered in the process.
Right.
That's good news.
That's right. No riots in the street, no slinging mud, not necessary. So.
Well, I feel like we're jumping in about 5 questions from where I wanted to start today.
Bro, you need to catch up with us. This interview.
I know, right? I want to just back up. For those who aren't familiar with the story, give us just a thumbnail overview of what this story is about. Obviously, you've hinted that there's a pro-life angle, but there's also another huge issue here that really the story revolves around. So tell us about it.
Kirk actually introduced a small documentary to us about 3 years ago, and it was called I Lived on Parker Avenue, short documentary based on this story of this teenage girl who rolls off the abortion table at the last second, decides she's going to place her baby for adoption. It's adopted by a Christian couple who could not have their own children. And when that baby, they named David, when David grew up to be about 18 years old or so, he crossed paths with his biological mother.
He actually got on a train ride to go see her.
She went to go see her, and she actually thought he would hate her, and the opposite was true. David, who was a believer in the Lord, embraced her, and she just melted, and he said, thank you, thank you, thank you for choosing life, for placing me for adoption. I love my family. I'm so grateful. It changed her life. And she, as a Christian herself now, speaks about this story and shares the value of life and what's happened with her. David does the same thing. And it was just such an moving story. And there's other twists along the way. And so we began talking to Kirk, and we said, this has got to be a feature film. So we shot it last year and can't wait for people to see it this year.
And it's a buddy film because he's with a friend who's filming the whole journey. Yeah. And they go skydiving together. There's some twists and turns that Alex didn't mention.
Yeah, there's cliff jumping, skydiving, ATV racing, knife throwing, wrestling that all happened in real life. So we didn't have to create any of this. We just said, if it really happened in your story, we're sticking it in the movie. So we did. And so we can't wait for you to see it.
And you watch Kirk age over 20 years like a chia pet on steroids. So
that's always entertaining. That's right. They got this, we found this, you know, kind of this fountain of youth filter that takes me back to where I'm like 35 years old. And then they found they found the ugly lens that really aged me even further than I am right now. So it's exciting all the way around. I think it got something for all the guys. It's got something for the ladies. It's got heart and humor, action, adventure. It's a 3 or 4 Kleenex movie. It's very emotional. And it's not political. So you can bring your family, your friends, you can bring your church group, your small group, and regardless of their political persuasions, I think they're going to love this movie because it's pro-family, pro-forgiveness, pro-reconciliation, and it has gospel fruit all over it.
Well, and we think about the divine timing, Kirk. You contacted us. Now we look back and see the Lord was all over that. None of us had any idea that Roe v. Wade would be overturned. We were just by faith following what we believe God was leading us to do. And now it's unbelievable how this movie, being a true story, it has something to speak to, girls that are in crisis pregnancies or unwanted pregnancies. It has something to speak to families considering adoption. There's so much that's here that's really needed right now in our generation.
It's funny as you talk about it, I was a little bit surprised because I feel like the pro-life angle kind of comes in right at the end. I mean, I feel like if I had to weight it, it felt like about 90% adoption, about 10% very, very, very strong pro-life message right at the end. How did you guys balance those two themes as you thought about what you were going to emphasize, or did you mostly just follow the script of the documentary?
We
re-edited the film.
Yeah, so the chronology pretty much follows the way the story actually happened. And it's late in the documentary and late in the journey of David meeting Melissa, his biological mother, when she asked him to join her at a location. When he arrived there, it was the now closed clinic where she went to have an abortion. And so she walks him through that, and she did in the documentary, she did in real life. And so we put it in the film at about the same point in their relationship and journey. So it wasn't any strategy to let's catch him at the end or whatever. We're basically reflecting as best we could what really happened. And it's so moving to watch it and to see what she really did, what she really said. And we created very little for this film. We followed 95% exactly what happened. And it was fun to do it that way.
It's our first movie based on a true story where the real people got to come on set.
Yeah.
And we're showing them clips, with actors portraying them, and they're crying on set going, this is exactly how it happened, And so it's been exciting for us and challenging at the same time to be authentic to the story.
Not only that, there's some secret stuff in here that you wouldn't know unless you were talking to us. And since you are, the way we wrote some of the dialogue was by interviewing the real biological mother and David, the young man, and others in the adoptive family. And we actually used words coming out of their mouth for the dialogue in the movie. So you're going to hear them say things that they really told us, that they really said to one another. And those are some of the most powerful movies and scenes and words in the movie. Not only that, there are some secret actors in the movie where if you know where to look and when to look, you will find the real biological mother, as well as David the son, and even the adoptive mother in the movie playing secret roles.
Well, let me talk about adoption for just a minute. Obviously, that's sort of the core of the story here. And Kirk, I want to direct this towards you. You have, and you can, if I'm off on this, you can correct me. You have 6 children, I believe 4 of whom are adopted. Is that correct?
That's right. Yeah.
How did your own experience with adoption play into, well, all of it? Your desire to tell this story, the way that you told the story, the themes and messages here. Talk about that for a minute.
So when I first watched that short documentary film Alex mentioned a few minutes ago called I Lived on Parker Avenue, it was really kind of a fluke thing. Someone sent it to me. I told my wife about it. She said, oh, you ought to watch that. So I did, and it wrecked me. Why did it wreck me? Well, because I'm an adoptive father, and I just was overwhelmed with a sense of gratitude for those young women that I never met who chose to give life to my oldest son and my 2 daughters and my son Luke. And then I thought about the young lady who chose life for my wife Chelsea, who also was adopted. I mean, all 5 of them were 1 doctor appointment away, maybe moments away from not existing. And if Chelsea hadn't been born, either would our 2 natural born children, Olivia and James. And so I thought, man, this has to be a movie that people see. And again, like Stephen said, we had no idea that Roe v. Wade was going to be overturned. So I look now and I see something that might equal a wink from heaven when I see how everything has fallen into place, the timing of it, the way that God's opened doors. We've been praying since the beginning that God would show us his favor. And so from the script to the actors who were playing the roles, to the crew that was pulled together, the location that we shot it at, and the timing of the release, even the Fathom Events distribution system is all working together, I believe, for the good of this nation and all who see it, because it points us to life. And more than that, it points us to eternal life.
The Kendrick brothers, you have 12 children between you. Are any of those adopted?
I have a daughter adopted from China, Mia.
Okay.
We actually featured her in the movie Show Me the Father, which obviously you've not seen, Adam. Because you would. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, but when my wife and I adopted Mia, it was just an incredible God moment for us, because to see that God will give you the same love for an adopted child as he does for your biological children. And we don't walk around our house thinking she's adopted. We just walk around knowing she's our daughter. And she's just as loved and welcomed and blessed. And I was able to baptize her 2 Sundays ago. So it's just been incredible to watch her journey. And even now to see that she is using her adoption story to point other people back to Jesus. So I'm super grateful for that.
2 scenarios. Somebody walks in and they're maybe in a crisis pregnancy and they see this movie and they're considering giving up their child for adoption. Or maybe, someone comes in and they're considering adopting. How do you think the movie will potentially affect them? And how are you hoping people will respond to that?
This is why we are excited about going with Fathom for this theatrical release. Fathom said, do you have any extra value pieces you want to add that makes the movie more than just a normal movie-going experience? And we said yes. So, and again, this is the Lord's timing. We have filmed, Kirk, Stephen, myself, and a few other friends, a 10-minute post-movie interview that addresses that very thing.
It'll be shown in the theaters when the movie's over.
In the theaters. So when someone goes to see the film, if they find themselves in a similar scenario, not only will the movie minister to them as is, but afterwards we point to resources and hope, hear a testimony from a woman who's been on both sides of that issue and is now walking with the Lord, and how she experienced healing and hope and redemption. And Kirk shares his stories of adoption. And at the end, we present hope through Jesus Christ. We present the gospel using the Romans road of hope through Jesus Christ. And so we were able to add those things to the story. So again, we can't wait to see what the Lord does with this. You will hear the gospel clearly. You'll hear path to hope clearly. LifeMarkMovie.com. We also add more resources that people will be able to go to depending on their scenario. So we're doing everything we can to not only share a wonderful, powerful, true story, but to give them hope and direction. And so again, we're excited about it coming out September the 9th.
Well, that's awesome. And why is it important for people, if they're interested in this movie, to go sooner rather than later? People may not realize the importance of opening weekend. Talk about that for just a moment.
Well, after an opening weekend, theaters decide, are we going to shut this movie down immediately, if not sooner, or are we going to expand it to more theaters in more states? This movie is being released in 48 states on September the 9th in 1,400 theaters, I think, Alex. And it's an incredible opportunity for people in a city to gather together in a not at one specific church or whatever, but to gather together, be entertained and inspired with popcorn in their lap, and be caught up in a storyline where they don't have to cover their kids' eyes or ears or apologize for what they've just seen. They're going to see their values encouraged and reinforced on the screen rather than dishonored. And then they're going to be inspired to get engaged in their community and with the people that are around them. And so I love the fact that LifeMark is going to be a tool, almost like a weapon in the battle, you know, a tool on the tool belt of people, where you're going to be able to hand this to a girl who is pregnant, doesn't know what to do, hand this to a couple that's praying about adoption, hand this to a pastor, and encourage, take a pastor to go see the film. And you may want to launch an adoption ministry or a women's center or whatever. And so there's so much fruit. Or now that Roe v. Wade has been overturned in the national level, the fight has been dropped down to the state level. And there's so many state legislators that need to be reminded and encouraged what is true and lovely and excellent and good and just and compassionate. And this movie is going to put rocket fuel as they're trying to pray through the decisions of using their influence. You've got business owners that are now trying to fund, you know, girls to go to other states so they can get abortions. Well, when they watch this film, we hope they change their mind and start helping to fund adoptions. You know, because the golden rule, as Jesus challenged us to practice, of treating other people like we want to be treated, would say that what if you were the innocent child in a womb needing somebody to speak up for you? Or what if you were a girl in an unwanted pregnancy and you're afraid, and to know that there's hope and healing, and you need to make that decision about that child after you have held it in your arms and looked it in its face to decide if you're going to be able to raise that child or not, rather than being pressed into a decision that you may forever regret. So when as Kirk said at the beginning of this interview, when you plug love into this scenario, it brings clarity, it brings courage, and it brings compassion.
Wow.
And life.
And life. And I think that's a terrific place to stick the landing. I know you guys could probably talk for another hour about this. Obviously, you have a tremendous passion about it. It's a tremendous issue for us to be focusing on. So thanks again for taking some time to talk to the Plugged In Show today. And if you're interested, you can find out more at lifemarkmovie.com, and I'm sure fathomevents.com will give you information on where you can find local screenings in your area as well. Thanks, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.
Great talking with you. God bless you.
Thanks.